Okay, we are live now.
Okay, so a very good evening, everybody. So let's start. I just hope I am audible, loud and clear. So I
Yes,
am
ma'am. Yes,
Shruti
ma'am.
Agrawal.
Yeah, ma'am.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you very much, sir. So yes. So my name is Shruti Agrawal, and I would be conducting a pre-placement training session on Python programming. Before starting with what Python is, a bit of introduction that uh, that are the possible questions of the interviewer. We will again keep the thing in the mind that the questions, the concepts that we are taking, if that would be asked in our interview, or if we'll get the questions out of it in, let's say, objective type of question that has been asked by the companies many times, then how to tackle it. So that would be our aim. So before going ahead with the what Python is and how to work ahead with Python, what are the basic concepts in it? Uh, we know pretty well that Python is buzzword these days. Doesn't mean that this language was not there before. It is more than 3 decades. The Python has been developed, but then it has not got that much popularity. So popularity Python programming language has got now. There are a few reasons behind it. We'll discuss each and every reason one by one. But then if you talk about the areas where company require a Python programmer, there are ample of areas. So you cannot say that only as a Python developer, but rather whatever other profile, machine learning engineer, data analytics, data scientist, then these days a lot in web development, a lot in app development. So these kind of applications, wherever you see, Python is grooming a lot. So let's try to understand why Python is getting this much popularity these days. So I would start with what Python is. So if we talk about computer IT students, they have a bit of idea because both the branches were having in second year the Python lab as in their curriculum. But if we talk about other branches, yes, they might be using Python at few places because for electronics and every other branch, the subjects like IoT and all, they are these days coding in Python only. So but still I would take it from the very scratch, because then I'm assuming that uh, probably you are not having the basic idea of Python. So those who know it, for them it would be a refresher. Starting few minutes will be the refresher time, right? So you can refresh your concepts. Let's start with what Python is. So Python is a general purpose, interpreted, interactive, object oriented, and high level programming language. But these are the words which are just written on the PPT. But then these words are having its own meaning, right? So if you are saying Python is a general purpose language, then there is some meaning of word general purpose. That is the reason we are using Python as a general purpose language. So why we used to call it as a general purpose language? Because it is not restricted that you can use Python only for the mathematical computation, or only for analyzing the data, or let's say only for developing web applications. You cannot say that. These days, each and everywhere, Python is capturing the coding areas. Like you can do the web development, you can do the some analytics, you can do other things. So a lot of places are there where you have libraries in Python which are performing very nicely. That is the reason Python is called as a general purpose language. Coming to the second word, that is interpreted, let's try to understand what interpreted means here. So yeah, we have a proper execution procedure of a Python program, but then before that, what is interpretation? It is nothing but converting one language into another language. It's just line by line, right? So there are two terms, that is compiler and interpreted. In general, if you'll ask me, Python is compiled and interpreted language, right? How it is, wait for a few moments. We will go to next slide and we'll discuss these things. Talking about interactive, yes, it is an interactive language. Object oriented, there are two things, procedure oriented and object oriented. These are the major bifurcation among the languages. So before this session, those who have attended a C programming session was there. So yes, C is a procedure oriented language. Why? Because things are accessible in C through procedures, through functions, right? But then if you talk about Python, it is Object-oriented language doesn't mean it does not support a procedure-oriented approach. So basically, in this way, it is having a nature of C++, which is procedure-oriented also and object-oriented also. That means what? That it is not required to have a class in Python always. It is optional. If you want, if that is a need of the program, you can make a class and go ahead, or else you can simply create few procedures and run the program. Now, every point that I'm explaining, the interviewer may try to confuse you with these points, that if you are saying it is object oriented, is it like Java? No, it's not. Java is having a compulsory rule that you first create the class and then only you can go ahead. But then Python does not do that, right? So Python is having flexibility. Yes, it supports both the approaches. Then it is a high level programming language. We all know what high level programming language means. That is, which is more understandable to human, which is more of like English syntax language, right? Which is very less understandable to machine. So that is the reason we need a compiler, because if I want my program to be executed by a machine and that program is written in a language which is more friendly to me, then how compiler will understand, right? How a machine will understand? Machine needs the program to be written in the machine level language. And we cannot understand 0, 1 wala language, right? So that is the reason we need some kind of translator which can translate high level language to low level language, or one type of language to another type of language. So for that, we use compilers and interpreters. Talking about the development of Python, so yes, it has been developed by Uido, and it is like developed during 1985 to 1990. Considering about the popularity that it has been developed then why not have gained the popularity at that time, and why now? So answering to this question, it is a bit slow in the terms of execution, right? That was it. The reason behind that Python program first get compiled and then get interpreted. So it takes time, right, for the execution. But then why it got popularity later on? So yes, we have a reasons for it, because later on it was like a lot of machine learning applications. Lot of Python is very rich with libraries, right? Predefined libraries. So for the task for which people has to write thousands of line of code, it has simplified it in a single library. So you can simply call the library, call the function, and your task is done. You need not to write these days the complete algorithm in the code format for machine learning algorithms, but rather we directly have scikit-learn. Usme se sare modules are available. You can pick up the module and directly execute it with reference to your data set. So all in all, it has made our life very easy. So that is the reason these days Python is in boom. Talking about features, yes, it is very rich with the features. The very first feature is it is simple, very simple to understand. Even if you don't have any programming background and you want to start with Python, completely recommendable, because then syntax is very easy with the Python, right? That is the reason it is written. It is easy to learn. Another thing is it is open source. What exactly open source means? Open source means, first of all, it is freely available. You can directly go to the Python's official site and you can download the latest version. How to do that? Quickly we'll see, right? Apart from that, you are also having a flexibility to change in the code. So basically, you can modify the code. We have a lot of communities which are working together on Python. You can join any community. You can put your doubts on Stack Overflow. People will answer. So it is having a very rich open source kind of behavior. That is the reason it is an open source language. High level we have already seen, which is more of human friendly language in the terms of syntax, right? So Python, sometime while writing a Python program, you feel like you are simply typing the English words, right? Which is very easy for you to understand, right? That increases machine complication, because machine do not understand high level language, but then we need not to bother for it because we have compilers and interpreters. Talking about it is dynamically typed. Yeah, this is something which is really important and could be one of the point where few questions may be raised, that why it is written it is dynamically typed. So there are basically two terms. First of all, first term is statically typed, another term is dynamically typed. Now, what is statically typed? That is, at the time of compilation of any program, if the machine understands that the given value is of which data type, then that is what is statically typed. So if you see the example, we have C language. You just have attended the lecture for C, so you might have a clear idea of that how we define any variable or how we declare any variable in C or how we initialize any variable in C. We simply write int a is equals to 2. That means what? A is a variable which is of integer type having the value 2. So basically, if you want to see it again, how it works, it will simply go to memory. It will say to memory, give me one block, right? This block will be having some recognition, I'll call it as A, and I will put a value 2, and everybody knows, my compiler knows, and my machine knows that it is of integer type, right? But then this is not the case with dynamically typed languages. What dynamically typed languages says, it says you simply write A is equals to 2, right? That means need not to write any data type at the time of declaration. So at the compilation time, machine would not be able to know that this is an integer, but while execution, it will dynamically recognize, okay, fine, it is written A is equals to 2. That means here the data type would be integer, right? So I'm assuming that that the audience is having a bit idea of what data types are, right? Though we in today's session we will target for Python data types, that is what is a motto, but then a bit of idea of what data types are, right? So that is the reason it is dynamically typed, because at the runtime, my machine decides that okay, fine, this is what is the type of variable assigned. Okay. Another point is it is platform independent, right? The meaning of platform independent is pretty clear. Platform independent and portable. So if you talk about Java, it is of the similar manner, and for both these language, virtual machine is a big contributor to make them portable, to make them platform independent. How? Please wait for some time. We'll come to that slide and we'll discuss. Next, talking about the approach. So yes, it uses procedural approach and object-oriented approach as well, right? So procedural, I told you, if you talk about C language, it is purely procedural-oriented language. If you talk about Java, it is purely object-oriented language. If you talk about C++, it is amalgam of both. In C++, nobody will compel you to make a class and then go ahead. You can go ahead without making class. That is pretty possible. If you want to have a class, you can make the class and go ahead, right? In the same way, Python is also having both the behaviors, that is procedure oriented and object oriented. Okay, so this is all about the rich feature set of Python, for which Python is gaining popularity these days. So I just hope the things still here are clear. I would appreciate if you can give a quick acknowledgement on the chat section that if the things are clear till now or not. Yeah, so I'm expecting for a quick acknowledgement in the chat. Okay, fine, sounds good. So let's go ahead with the execution procedure of Python. So how how Python programs internally executes, right? Knowing that is very important. Now, again, I repeat, these are the interview questions, can be anytime asked to you. You can say there that it is interpreted in compiled language, but somebody can ask you how, right? At that time, you need to explain that how it is interpreted, how it is compiled, right? So what we do while creating any Python program, just a Java program, whenever we used to write a Java program, we used to save it with .java extension. In the same way, Python requires .py extension for its program, right? So let's say you have you have opened a notepad and written a program and you want to make it a Python program. So you can save it with, let's say, xyz.py, right? Now, that xyz.py will be called as your source code, right? Now, what you can do to that source code, you have to compile using Python compiler, right? After compiling, it will create a .pyc file extension. Please mind it, the extension is .pyc, which is the extension of byte code, right? So it is creating a byte code. Now, I just want to make few things very clear. What compiler do? Compiler convert one language format to another language format, right? It is nowhere written that compiler can only translate high level language to low level language. This is not at all the case. This is one of the possibility. Another possibility is one form of the language can be converted to some other form of the language. That is also the job of compiler. That depends upon how the compiler is written internally. Okay. So here what compiler do? Whatever we give to the source code, it simply creates a byte code, right? With .pyc extension. Now, this .pyc extension byte code is actually portable, right? Why portable? You can simply take this .pyc, right, or any other machine, I can say, right? Now, to execute the program, what we need to do now, here is the role of interpreter comes in, right? So what interpreter do with this .pyc file, I give to interpreter, which is present inside Python virtual machine. Now here we have a virtual machine. Please don't get confused it with KVM or VMware or something. It is not that virtual machine. It is a virtual machine which is specific to Python program, right? And this is the virtual machine. Whenever you install Python, it is by default get installed to your machine, and this makes Python platform independent, right? Because CPU architecture of every machine is different, right? So with this .pyc file, if you'll execute in this virtual machine, then there won't be any dependency on CPU architecture, right? So here the program will be interpreted because Python virtual machine contains interpreter. And difference between compiler and interpreter, that compiler take the complete program in a single stroke and tells you that here you are wrong, please correct it, and then I will convert it to another language. But interpreter take it line by line, right? So what interpreter will do, it will take one line, execute it, will take another line. If there is any mistake, will let you know. Likewise. So basically here Python interpreter interprets the .pyc file, that is byte code, right? And here gives you the output. So since the procedure is a bit long, first of all, compilation, then interpretation, that is the reason it is a bit time consuming language. But then because of other great features, gazillion of applications are available. Because of that, Python is getting a lot of popularity these days. So I just hope I'm making sense with this execution procedure of Python. Let's quickly go ahead with few slides. That is the difference between C and Python, and then the difference between Java and Python. So yes, C is an imperative or procedural programming language, procedure-oriented programming language, whereas Python is object-oriented programming language that we have discussed. You need to declare the variable in C. जैसे अभी मैंने बताया, you need to write int a is equals to 10, but then in Python you can simply write a is equals to 10. Right? Then C is not following OP approach at all, whereas Python do have OP approach. Pointers are not available. Pointers are available in C, are not available in Python. So pointer functionality is not available in Python. C is a compiled language. Python is an interpreted language. That is clear. For C, we need a compiler only, right? Then if you talk about built-in function, now this is the beauty of Python, right? That it, here you compare Python with any other XYZ language, Python will always do the great job, because then there are a lot of predefined and rich library set available with Python, which is not available in C. Talking about Java and Python differences. So yes, Java is again considered to be as compiled language, whereas Python is considered to be majorly interpreted language. Java is statically typed. Why statically typed? I just told you that you need to declare the variable properly. That is int a is equals to 10 likhna padega. Whereas in Python, you can simply write a is equals to 10. So that is the reason Python is dynamically typed. Then there are a lot of other things available. We can quickly take it. For example, the important part is that is braces Yeah, sir, am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you very much. Yes, sir, if you can give me screen sharing access. Yeah, is it visible? Okay, great. Yeah, extremely sorry for the technical glitch in between. So we were on the difference between Python and Java, and yes, we are already done with. We were trying to understand the indentation, but I think let's try to understand it more on while practicing the code. Talking about the different IDEs that we use for Python. So basically, it is integrated development environment wherein we can code for Python, right? So as you can see, ample of icons are present on the screen. So yes, we use IDLE, which comes with the basic Python download, right? So but once you'll go to official site of Python and you will download for Python, you will get the IDLE by default. Then another is a spider that we are going to use for the day. Then we have PyCharm, we have Eric, and we have many more. Jupyter Notebook. These are some buzzword again these days, wherein people are coding for Python. Using high-end IDE is beneficial because then most of the time there are a lot of libraries. I just need not to install separately, right? If I want to install, I have pip install for it, but then it takes time and it is having a lot of dependency. So if you are using any high-end IDs directly for the Python execution, that is always helpful. But then yes, we should know every option. We'll take care of these things, and yes, I will just let you aware of that what are the different ways how you can execute your Python program. Talking about the companies which are using Python, so you can see a lot of popular icons here, that is YouTube, Google, Dropbox, Netflix, your favorite probably. So yes, we have ample of different areas where we are using Python. If you talk about, let's take an example of Google. Google is using Python for so many things that you even cannot imagine. Even these days, for analytics purpose, for training your machine, for recommendations, for natural language processing, for next sentence generation, text summarization, chat boxes, then your chat bots, right? These are the different things where you are using Python up to its max, right? So yes, talking about the different career opportunities, there are career opportunities in web development, game development, big data analytics. Of course, few of these things you will explore even in your final year. At least for computer IT, it is there in the syllabus to use Python and then have a laboratory on it. So it is in their curriculum. Then web testing, you can use it in AI data science. Because of this only, this much popularity of Python is there. You can use it in IoT and then a lot of smart devices. So yeah, these are the different career options. Now the most important part, that we are going to have 3 different sessions for Python. So what exactly we are going to cover in the Python? So yes, the topics to be covered would be like few basics of Python, that is basic input output function we'll discuss. Then a lot of data types are available, lot of new data types are available, which you probably not be aware of if you have a hands-on on Java and C, C++. So those data types we'll explore, advanced data types in Python, that is our one of the agenda. Then we can see operators, different operators which are available in Python. We can go for the control statement and decision making statements in Python. We can get a bit of clarity clarity about functions, what functions is in Python. Then also we are going to see that how Python helps in file handling, how Python helps in database connectivity. Then we are also going to explore the option of GUI programming in Python. So a bit of introduction I'll give you about GUI. That is graphical user interface using Kinter. You have other options also, PyQt and everything. You can use it as per your choice. But for the basic understanding, we'll take Kinter here. Then yes, of course, we have socket programming. So that's all about the theory for the day. I think enough theory for the day. Just for the introducing, just to introduce you with the what Python is and how it is important and how it works. What are the different opportunities we have in Python? Now let's directly start with that. What if I don't have Python on my machine? Then how to install it? So we can simply open the browser and you can simply type here Python download. Now let's say I have Windows 10 64-bit. You can choose the operating system of your choice and just click on the first link. And it will directly redirect you to the official Python site. So that is python.org, where you will see all the latest releases of Python. So this is the first link that you can see here is the latest, that is Python 3.9. These days people are using mostly Python 3. So Python 3, any version of Python 3 and Python 2, there are few slight differences in the syntax. If you are having Python 2 in your machine, for example, print statement is having a bit differences in the syntax. But then that depends. I mean, what version you are using. People these days are only working on Python 3. So 3 का कोई भी version आप ले सकते हो. Latest if you are downloading, you will get 3.9. Right? As it is already installed in my machine, I'm not going to do it again. But yes, you can do it through this first link. Okay. Then let's say now I am assuming that with this link you have downloaded and installed Python successfully. Now you want to simply execute few things in Python. So how you can do the very basic way that you can simply open the command prompt of your machine. Yeah, so here's the command prompt of my machine. I can simply type here Python. As soon as I press enter, it will directly redirect me to this triple arrow prompt of Python, where that is a prompt of Python where I can directly execute the code. So yes, as soon as I have pressed enter, you can see here the triple arrow prompt. Right here it is showing me currently I am with Python version 3.7.1 and latest release is 3.9 point something. So if you wish to download, you can go ahead with that. It will not make much difference. So yes, with this triple arrow prompt, you can simply write anything. For example, I can write here 3 plus 9, it is giving me output, right? I can do here basic operation. Let's say I am writing 2 asterisk asterisk 4. That is a exponentiation operator in Python. So in other languages, you might have seen cap operator as an exponentiation. मुझे लिखना है 2 raised to the power 4. So I generally use cap in other languages, but in Python it is double asterisk. So yes, here it is telling me the exponentiation. Simple other things I can do assignments also. I have done a is equals to 5. I want to print a. It is very simple. We can print a. I just want to do some operations like a plus 7. Let's say I can do that. But then, of course, it has been added. But how we'll be able to see it with a print operation? Right. So here I can see it has been, the results has been printed. So likewise, you can do ample of things. You can play around with this, right? With this, one more possibility is there that if I'm using triple arrow prompt, it is never recommended for a program which is having so many line of code. So what is recommended there? It's better you write your program in some editor and you save it with .py file, because what is the case with triple arrow prompt? It is it gives you a ripple environment. So what it do, as soon as you type something and press enter, it gets executed, right? But then if you want to write the complete set of statements to which you want to execute together, for that you can write your program. For example, if you can see here my systems desktop, then here you can see few files like recording, like testing, right? These are the Python files you can recognize directly with Python, and this I might have written on Notepad, and I have saved it with .py extension, right? So what I can do here is that I can directly go to my CMD. And what to do if I want to execute those files? So first of all, let's come out of this triple arrow prompt. For that, I have a command called as exit, or control Z will also do, right? So here I am out of this particular triple arrow prompt, and then I want to execute my program, execute my .py file, which is already kept somewhere on the desktop. So let's say these two files, or let's talk about only one file, that is recording. Okay. So what I can do here is I can go to the CMD and I can write here Python. No, but it will not work. Why? Because I am not on that path. I'm on user systems, but I have to go to desktop because the file is on desktop. So let's go to desktop. Yes. Now we are at the desktop. Okay. Now my file is also on the desktop. So I have some random program written there to which I can execute by writing Python space. The file name was recording.py. And I have pressed enter. Right. So now what it is doing, this program is basically, it is written in the way like it is a program which is accessing my microphones, and whatever I'm speaking, it is recording for 5 seconds, and then it is stopping the recording, and it is saving the recording somewhere on the desktop. So here you can see this output file. This is an audio file to which I can play, and whatever I was speaking during that time for 5 seconds, it will play that. So yeah, that is what was a problem statement, is altogether a different thing, but I'm telling you how you can execute the program. Okay, now you can see a major difference between the way we execute Java program and the way we execute Python program. So those who are having a bit of knowledge about Java, they must be knowing that after writing a Java program on the notepad, you have to first compile it with Java C command, and after that you will get some object file on the screen, and then you need to execute it using Java command. But then in Python says you don't worry, I'll take care of backend compilation and interpretation things. You simply write a statement and I'll give you the output. This is how Python works through CMD, right? This was one of the options, right? Now what are the other options? So I can simply go to the start menu and I can type here ideally. Now, this is one of the IDE of Python, but then you may ask me that, ma'am, what extra efforts you have taken to install this ideally. So if I am using Python, if I'm using Windows, I have not taken any extra efforts. I have simply installed Python, and after that I have typed ideally and it has opened this window. That is Python shell in the front of me, right? So this is again the same triple arrow prompt I was talking about with CMD. Here also you can write some small functions and execute it. So you can try for anything, right? You can try for multiplication also. Similarly with division. So these are like operators we are seeing with Python, right? So these are the different operations that we can perform. Right? How to print something in Python? So for that, I have a function called as print. So let's say I want to print hello ES. This is one of the way I can print hello on the screen. Right? Now, you can clearly see how smart this environment is, that it is giving me the full definition of print. I have not pressed any extra key for it. I have simply written print, and it is giving me the recommendation that you are writing value well and good, but there are some other attributes which are available. If you want to initialize, you may. If you won't initialize, I will take default. Okay, so this is how it is working. Okay. अच्छा, print लिखने का there is one more way, that is if I want to print any string, let's say, so I can use triple double quotes also. And yes, it is working fine. Okay. Okay, let's try with something else. So let's try with single quotes. I have written here triple single quotes and I've pressed enter. Yes, it is working great. Let's try with one more option. No, it's my bad. Yeah, sounds good. It is again working. That means, ma'am, kuch bhi number of brackets, kuch bhi inverted commas lagaye to it works? No, that is not the condition. So let me try with print double quotes, double inverted commas, and then hi, and then close the braces and press enter. Here it is giving me invalid syntax. That means what? These are the 4 permissible syntaxes how I can print a string, or how I can pass the value inside the print statement, right? If I want to print it as it is. Okay, so yes, Python gives you that flexibility to use any of these methods. Okay, now this is one way, right? Another way is you can open the editor of IDL. So kaise open karoge? You can go to this file section, you can click on new files. As soon as you will click on new files, you will get this some editor kind of window wherein you can write your program and execute it. So let's say if I want to write print hello all, right? And then I want to write print how are you? Right? Then I can execute these 2 statements. But then the condition with this editor is, while writing anything, you have to first save it and then you will be able to execute. Fair enough, no problem. Let's try to run it directly. I'll go to run button and I'll go to run module. But then it will ask me to save the source first. So no problem. I'll press OK and I'll save it. Now, how to save a Python code? To save a Python code, I should write some name for the code. So as it is our first code, we'll write test.py. The .py extension is very much needed, right? And my code has been saved and got executed. Here is my output. I have printed 2 statements, that is hello all and then how are you. It has printed both the things on the screen. Right? So I just hope that you got a bit clarity with how to execute a Java program. Indentation part is still left. We will come to that, but then I just hope you got a clarity with how to execute a Python program. We have ample of ways, right? You can go to directly CMD and execute it. You can use normal notepad also. Otherwise, we are gifted with this IDLE for which we need not to take any extra efforts, right? आपने Python डाला है तो IDLE automatic है आपके पास. You can use that. You can use triple arrow prompt if it is some small operation, or else you can simply write the program and save it with .py extension and execute it, right? Lot of other things are also there. For example, it gives you indentation ke liye auto indent facility. So you can go to format, you can indent it. This is called indentation. The default indentation in Python is like 4 spaces, right? At the beginning of the statement, 4 spaces, but it is not mandatory, right? You can reduce and increase the spaces before the program or before any line. Right? Now, this is not a type of code written on the screen which actually needs indentation. We will get to understand about it once we will start with control statements and functions. Right? Okay. So yes, this is all basics about how to execute a Java program, a Python program. But then how we are going to take it ahead now on, you can like try with whatever you have. So I am assuming that all computer IT students, those who are in the session, everybody must be having Python installed with probably ID, some ID you must be having, like you might have PyCharm, you might have Spider, Jupyter Notebook, or there are ample of online notebooks available for Python, right? That is, Google provide you Colab, so you can use Colab also. आपने जो भी कोड किया है वो आपको सेव हो जाएगा ड्राइव में, right? That is also one of the flexibility and facility provided to you. So you can use anything, right? We will take our further sessions ahead on this platform, which is Spider, right? So I've already installed the Spider on my machine. So it is a heavy software, not recommended until unless you are like not pro with the Python. If you are learning very basics, it is not recommended. But why I am using it here, because it gives me some flexibility and ease to teach, right? That is the reason I am using it here. You can simply run whatever we are taking today or in the upcoming sessions on the IDL. Okay. So yes, I'm assuming that whatever basics are there, whatever the story is there in the background, and how to download, how to execute a program, up to this much things are clear. So if it is clear, please give me a confirmation in the chat section so that we can go ahead. Yes, everybody. Yeah, I'm waiting for a quick confirmation in the chat from your side if the things still here are clear, or if you have any doubt, you can keep on posting in the chat section. We can take it later. Okay, so I can see one or two responses. Fine, that would be easy for me to understand that if the things are clear to you or not, if you will respond. Fine. Okay. So yes, if you people have any doubt at any point of time, you can post it in the chat. We will take your queries later. So now let's start with the basic input output operation. So actually today's agenda is to wind up the basic data types and operators in Python. But then before that, we need to know that what are the different input commands, what are the different output commands in Python, right? So if you talk about C, C++, so in C we used to use printf and scanf, right? Scanf is to take the input from the user and printf is to print something on the screen. So that is their input and output command. In a C++, we use C in, C out. So yes, that functions we have to execute the or print something on the screen and take something from the user, right? If you see Java, then for Java we use system.out.println to print something on the screen, and to take the input from user we have other ways, like we use scanner class, we use buffer reader class. So likewise we have options. In the same way, if we are using Python for outputting something, that is for printing something on the screen, we have print function, right? So what are the different possibilities or different options available in the print function that we generally require. Let's explore that quickly, and then we will go to that how to take input from the user, right? So this is what is the syntax of a simple print function. If you will execute this, now how this IDE is that this is what the code you can see, and at the right hand side you can see a console, right? This console is giving me the output. It is a Python shell which will be giving me the output, right? So if I have written nothing to the print, of course the program will get executed, but it will not print anything, right? So if rather than that, if I'll write here hello and execute, yes, it is giving me the hello as output, right? Now if I want to concatenate two different strings, yes, I can do that by using plus operator. So always remember that if I have a string in the left and right, and if I'm using plus, that means it will be doing concatenation, right? So here it has concatenated hello and loy, right? But then if I want to print two different strings, which are probably not concatenated or related to each other, we can separate it with commas and it will be printed with a space, right? So this is how it is printing hello space loy, right? If I want to execute some special characters. So what are the special commands in Python? For example, here we have used /n. So it is similar to as we use /n or /t in Java and other languages. So what /n do? It changes the line. What /t do? It give you a space of one tab, right? So yes, if I'll execute /n, here is my output that it is printing hello. Yeah, am I audible now? Okay. So again, sorry for the glitch. So we were on, I think we were just trying to understand what was the concept behind the slash n, backslash n. So what it is doing, if I use one extra slash, it will not consider slash n as a special character. Okay, so it will print it as an output. So it is here printing me as hello slash n and then loy, right? So also if I want to print a string in multiple number of times, I can simply write here 3 asterisk hello loy. That means it will print the same string thrice. So how we get to know? Let's execute it. So yes, here we have hello loy, and hello loy. So it is basically printing the same string thrice. Okay. Now, Python gives us flexibility to assign two variables at a time, right? So basically, if I'll be writing two or more than two, so I need not to write here a is equals to 3 and then next line may b is equals to 4. That is not required. If I have to assign two values, I can simply write it in a one statement. That is a comma b comma c comma d is equals to 3 comma 4 comma 5 comma 6. So what it will do, respectively, it will assign the value, right? So similarly, I can print those values also. So yes, let's execute this. And here it is printing 3 and 4 in the output. Okay, so these things you can try in your triple arrow prompt also. Now, we have seen that while writing print statement, it was having some special characters. So what was those special characters? Some attributes defined here. That is SEP attribute, END attribute. So what was the meaning of that, right? So currently, the default value that is saved in END attribute of print statement is to change the line, that is backslash n. But then if I want, I can give it as per my choice. I don't want to change the line after print statement. So I can stay on the same line. I can give some different value of END attribute of print. So here I have given END value as percent. Let's execute it. So here it has printed hi and then percent. And then I have one more statement, that is how are you? Let's print and see. Okay, this is happening because these two statements I'm executing separately. Let's execute these two statements simultaneously. Yes. Now you can see after writing hi, it has not changed the line. क्यों? क्योंकि end के अंदर default value जो थी that was slash n, but then here what I did, I have changed that slash n to percentage. So what it is doing, it is ending the statement with percentage rather than changing the line. And that is the reason the next statement has been printed to the same line. But what will happen after how are you? After how are you, I have not initialized any end attribute. That means what, it will take the default value. The default is to change the line, right? So it will by default change the line after printing. So this is how END attribute work. In the same way, we have SEP attributes. What does SEP attribute do? It is basically working as a separator. So here you can see after a comma b, I have written SEP is equals to $. So what it will do? It is here printing $3.4. Right? That means what? That means what? Here the separator is not space but rather 4. तो अगर मैंने यहाँ SEP इनिशियलाइज नहीं किया होता और मैं सिर्फ a कॉमा b लिख के एग्जीक्यूट करती तो वो क्या प्रिंट करता? It would have printed 3 space 4. But यहाँ पे मैंने why so? Because SEP is having default value as a space. But then here I have initialized the value of SEP as per my choice. I have written it as $. That is the reason it is printing $. In between. Simple. Okay. Then, yes, you can try with these 3 statements. So if you can type in the chat section what we can expect as an output of these 3 statements. If the highlighted statements I will execute together, what is the expected output? Please type in the chat section quickly. Just take care of that I have initialized some E and D values everywhere. So can you please tell me what would be the output? I'm waiting for the response in the chat. Now, as per the understanding of what E and D is, you tell me what is the expected output. So what we have done here, we have written here hello, right? After hello, we have done E and D space. That means what for E and D, we are just asking to give one space. We are not asking to change the line or to put anything else, right? What it will do, it will write hello, right? And then next print statement, that is how are you, Loy. So what it will do, it will print hello, give a space, and in the same line, it will print how are you, Loy, right? Yeah, Soham, your answer is correct, but I think you should take care of that is question mark. It will print where, right? So in the second statement, END we have give slash t. Slash t matlab a tab space, right? So question mark it will print in the same line for sure, but after a tab space. Yeah, Tharva, you have missed the question mark, it seems. Right? So let me execute it and show. So here you can see the output, right? That is, hello, how are you? And then after a tab space, it is printing question mark. Okay. So, yes, I just hope it is clear now. Okay. Now, moving on. Next is, here I have defined a list. What list is that is today's target? We have to understand what list is. We'll go to that, right? But then simply if I've initialized it is a data type in Python. So if I've initialized some LST variable, then what it will do, and if I'll print that LST, it will print it as it is. जैसा मैंने initialize किया है वैसा का वैसा output में print हो जाएगा. Let's execute it and see. Yes, so it is printing 1, 3 and high. Okay. क्या होता है list? We'll come to that. Please have patience for probably 5 minutes, right? Now there is some function called as format function in Python. So how format function works? Format function actually assigns the respective value at the execution time to the string, right? So how it works? Let's say if I have 3 different numbers, that is 1, 5, 3, right? And if I'm executing it, मैंने n1, n2, n3 की value initialize की उसे print करा दिया, right? Now here I just want to print, let's say, what is number 1, what is number 2, and what is number 3. I can print it like this. Or else I can use format function. That is one of the option, right? How format function works? To whichever variable I want to print the value, I can write that value to format, right? To format function inside the string itself. Now this number 1 is equals to 2 is equal, comma number 2 is completely working as a string, right? So here we are passing the value inside the string. But कैसे pass होगा? This would be considered in a sequence. This is the 0th index, this is a 1th index, this is a 2nd index. Here I am writing to which index you have to access. So I'm writing here for number 3 access 0th index. That means what? For number 3 value of n1 will be printed. For number 1 value of, for number 2 value of first index should be printed. For number 1 the value of second index should be printed, that is n3 should be printed, right? So I just hope it is clear. Quickly execute it and see. So can somebody tell me what would be the output here? For number 1, what it will print? Number 1 is equals to what? What it will print here? Value of second index. Second index पे क्या है? n3 है. n3 पे क्या है? Value 3 है, right? So number 1 की जगह 3 print होगा. Number 2 पे क्या print होगा? Number 2 पे first index print होगा. What is first index here? That is n2. n2 is placed here on the first index. So it will print the value of n2, which is nothing but 5, right? For number 3, it will access 0th index. So what is 0th index here? That is n1. n1 में value क्या है? 1. So what it will print? 1, right? So yeah, let's execute it quickly and see how it is working. So yes, it is giving me 3, 5, and 1. This is how we have discussed. ठीक है? So I just hope it is clear. So this was a brief idea of how your input functions work. Now let's quickly discuss about how output function. How output function works. Let's quickly discuss about how to take input from the user in Python. Right. So to take the input from the user, a simple word is there, that is input. Right. This is a function name, that is input. With that input, I can take the value from the user. Right. So for example, here I have written str is equals to input, enter the value of str. Right. So what is happening basically? It is asking for the user, that is enter the value of str. This statement will be printed as it is on the screen, and it will allow me to enter something after that. Right. Whatever has been the entered value will go to str and I can print it. So let's try to execute it line by line. First of all, I'll execute this. So as you can see here in the output screen, it is asking me to enter some value of str. That's okay. I will write here, let's say 78 या 79, and I will press enter. Right? But कौन सी value user ने enter की अगर मुझे वो access करना है, तो I can simply write a print statement and check. And you can clearly see that whatever value has been entered by the user previously has been printed by the statement, print statement. ठीक है? But here there is one catch, that is whatever value input statement accept, that is by default in string format, right? So what will happen? Let's say if I want to add two numbers by taking those values from the user. तो मैंने 5 लिया और 3 लिया, मुझे ये दोनों add करना है. So if I'm adding 5 and 3, default expectations to get 8, right? But then if I'll take 5 and 3 and I will add it simply by input function, if I'll take these two values and if I'll add it by plus operator, it will return me back the value as 53. Why? Because it is concatenating. Why it is concatenating? Because it is considering both the inputs as a string. What it means is every input function is having default type as a string. Okay, but then if we, let's say, want to add it, we need to convert it into the integer. That is, we need to typecast it into the integer. So वो typecasting हम कैसे करते हैं? सिंपल सी बात है कि अगर मुझे ये वैल्यू इंटीजर फॉर्म में लेनी होती तो मैं इसमें एक ब्रैकेट और लगाती एंड आई कुड हैव टाइपकास्टेड इट लाइक, या आई थिंक इट इज हैंग्ड. Yeah, so what I could have done, I could have written here int and इस complete statement को मैंने round braces में close कर दिया होगा. That means here I have typecasted the value. Now what it will do, it will take some value from the input and it will typecast it into the type integer. ठीक है? But then let's say if I want to simply pass some name and if I want to check कि अच्छा इसकी क्या क्या type होता है. So what I'll do, I'll ask user to enter some name by using an input function. Let's say I am entering the name Loy. And I'm pressing enter. So what it is doing, it is simply printing the name is Loy, and then there is one more function in Python to check the type of any variable, that is type function. So with type function, I can check the type of that string, which is here giving me str type का class return कर रहा है. इसका मतलब this belongs to string class. मतलब input ने जो भी value ली, that belongs to string class. Okay. Now here I have a small program again to add two numbers, जैसा अभी discuss किया, by taking the inputs from user. Okay. Now what we have done, if you can see the highlighted piece of code. What we have done here, we have asked the user to input two number. तो मैंने पहला print statement क्या लिखा? The first print statement that I've written here, that is, let's add two numbers. Can you please pass the two numbers from keyboard, right? Then if I'll execute second statement, सबसे पहले क्या execute होगा? Input enter the first number. सबसे पहले ये execute होगा. Input के अंदर आपने जो भी statement लिखा उसको print देने की जरूरत नहीं है. It will by default get printed and also give you the chance to input something. What you will do, you will write here enter the first number, and your compiler will wait for you to type something, right? So you'll give some number, but whatever number you will give, that would be by default in the string format to which you need to typecast, because to integers you can add, to strings you can only concatenate, you cannot add, right? So you are here typecasting it using integer. In the same way, you are taking second number, typecasting it to the integer. If you want, you can check the type of A after typecasting. It would give you the answer as int. Previously, it was giving as str class. This time, it will give you int class, yeah, integer class. Okay, and then you can simply add two numbers. You can print that number. Now this 5-6 lines of code, if you want, you can convert it into the single line also if you are creating a Python program. Now that is an assignment for you, that you try to concatenate everything. You try to club everything in a single line, wherein the task should be similar, that it should ask two numbers from the user should input two numbers from the keyboard, and then it should typecast it should add it should print output. Now believe me, this complete job can be done in a single line of code in Python. Now that is an assignment for you to figure it out and find out that how you can do that in a single statement. Okay, so this was the basic introduction for input and output functionalities in Python, right? Now, I think we should quickly go ahead with the data types. At least we should cover data types today. So, yeah. Okay. So, talking about the data types in Python, we have numeric data types as we have in every other programming languages, right? With bit differences. Then we have sequence data type, we have sets, we have dictionaries. These are the different data type categories. Now, inside that categories, there are multiple names that you have to understand. Right, so all the sequence data types and complex data type, you can say in Python they are called to be as advanced data type. So what will come in that category? Probably you can take a list, you can take tuple, you can take set, you can take dictionaries. So these are the data types that makes programmers' life very easy, right? So how we will see that, but then let's start with the basic data types. Okay, so yeah, the major data types that are available is int, float, complex, and bool, right? What is integer? You can pass any integer number, you can print that value, or you can check for the type of that value by using type function. So let's quickly execute it and see. Now here is an integer that I have initialized, I have printed it, and I have checked the type. It has written me it belongs to class int, right? Why everywhere they are writing class, word class? Because in Python, everything is class and object internally. How it is, we will have a discussion on it probably, but then for Python, everything is object, right? Every variable that you have assigned is an object, right? That is the reason that variable belongs to class int. This is what it is responding to us. Okay, fine. Now, another data type is a float data type that is there with the C++ also, Java also, the same data type here, that is float, right? You people are might be aware of, right? Then third data type is complex data type. Now this is something different. So basically what we have learned till date is for the real numbers we have seen the data types. For the complex number, Python is having a data type. What is complex number? Which is having the imaginary part also involved in it, right? So or which cannot be drawn on the number line, basically, right? That is imaginary part to which you cannot plot on the number line, right? So yeah, complex numbers you can handle or you can have a separate data type in Python. But the rule here is whatever complex part is here or whatever complex part is involved should be preceded with a variable called as j. So it should be strictly j for Python complex number, right? So here if it is written 4.7 plus 3j, then what it is 3 is the imaginary part of the number, right? Then yes, we have a print option. We can check for the type. So let's check if complex class is there or not. Yes, you can see that we have complex class available. Okay. In the same way, here we have a string, right? So for the string, you can check string data type abhi sequences mein वापस से आएगा. There we'll discuss. Other data type is bool data type. You can pass true or false value. That is again one of the data type. तो उसके लिए bool class available है Python में. So here if you check class, it will return you. It is bool. Okay. So these are the basic data types. Apart from that, with this numeric data types, you can do few experimentations also. For example, a number जो भी आप लिखते हो, int जो भी int values लिखते हो, that you by default considered with the base 10 values, right? आप उसको decimal number समझते हो, you consider it as base 10. Base 10 values are there in the right? Number conversion, number formats padhe honge aapne. So yes, here you can consider it as binary format is also allowed in Python. Then octal format is also allowed in Python. Hexadecimal format is also allowed in Python. Okay, how it is allowed? Just let me clear it out. Then that it should be preceded with, if it is octal, it should be preceded with 0 and O, right? So after O, whatever will be written will always lies between 0 to 7 and will be a octal number, right? Now this O can be capital O, can be small o, that is completely fine with the compiler. There is no problem. Okay. In the same way, here I have binary number. So binary should have 0B. Now this B can be caps or small, and whatever will be written after B, that is nothing but would be considered as binary number, provided that you should you should be agree to the condition that binary number bola to sirf 0 ya 1 se hi banega. You cannot use any other numeral for it. In the same way, if we are talking about hexadecimal, it should be having 0 and x, right? So that x can be small x or capital X. Any x is allowed. But then what is the hexadecimal number here? That is 1C2. So all of us know very well that if we talk about hexadecimal number, it takes total 15 digits. That is 0 to 9, and then A, B, C, D, E, F till F it takes, right? So combination of any of these can make a hexadecimal number. ठीक है, conversion करना है pretty possible. You can simply pass that number inside int. वो किस में convert करेगा? वो convert करेगा base 10 में, right? Because int is decimal, right? तो वो decimal number conversion करेगा, binary to decimal, binary to octal, octal to decimal, hexadecimal to decimal. So these conversions you can do in this way. Okay. There is one more way they have given, that you can simply pass the string here. So अभी मैंने क्या किया, उसको मैंने specific format में यहाँ पे लिखा है. देखो कैसे लिखा है, कैसे लिखा है. I've written it 0 O, 0 capital O, 0 small o, 0 B, small b capital B, 0 X, small x capital X. But then उसने क्या बोला, it is not required to have preceded with these things as such. You can simply pass a string and you can say this string is of base 16 type. Now you convert it to integer. So this is also one of the way how you can convert some number with some different base to a decimal number in Python. Okay, so now these are few basic data types that we were discussing about. Coming to some advanced data types. So yes, we have sequences. Sequences का सबसे great example is a string, right? So string is a sequence here. You can write the complete string. String initialize करने के there are 5 major ways in Python. You can use single double quotes. You can use single quotes, right? You can use triple double quotes. You can use triple single quotes. So these are the different ways how you can initialize the string in Python. Okay, if you want, you can simply check the type. It will return you that it is a string. It belongs to class str. Okay. After that, yes, you can do slicing with the string. You can repeat the string multiple times. This we have already seen before. Now let's come to what are bytes, what are byte arrays. Now the differences can be asked in the exams. What are bytes? Something which is not mutable, right? What are byte arrays? Something which is mutable, right? So if it is immutable, that is bytes. If it is mutable, that is byte arrays. What is the meaning of word mutable? Changeable, right? If you can modify it, if you can change it, that is byte array. Or mutable, if you cannot, that is immutable, that is bytes, right? But what it is actually, it is nothing but a list. What is list? We'll describe in detail, but it is list which contains the value of a byte, right? Byte क्या होता है? 8 bits, right? So maximum value क्या हो सकती है? 256. So basically, all the values ranging from 0 to 255, if any list contain any combination of these values, will nothing but can be considered as a different separate category of data type, that is bytes. But then byte का condition है, उसमें 255 से बड़ा numeral नहीं आना चाहिए, 0 से छोटा numeral नहीं आना चाहिए, right? Because it belongs to the range that is 0 to 255. Okay, so here is one of the example of byte. So what the square brackets are doing here, the square brackets are telling us that it is a list. What is a list? We'll next see. And then what we are doing, we are simply converting this list to the data type that is bytes. Now it is easily convertible because it is following all the conditions. All the numerals are below 255. If I will put even a single numeral here that is having its magnitude more than 255, it will return me an error. Why? Because it is not convertible in bytes, right? Okay. Then if you want to print some number, you can. If you want to run a for loop. Now this is a syntax in Python for executing a for loop, which is very different from, again, other languages, right? Here we use in operator, and this is how we execute a for loop. Control statements, again, we will learn in detail, but yeah, this is a for loop which is printing every element of this list. Okay. Then the problem comes here where I want to change some index of this particular bytes. Okay, so let me execute till here and see if things are okay or not. Yeah, sounds good. It is working perfectly fine. I have first tried to print it the second index. On the second index, it is having 30th because the indexing starts from 0, right? And then after that, I just wanted to print the complete list of elements that are present here in this X. That is basically inside data type bytes. So it has printed all those values, 5 different values has been printed here. Till here, things are all okay. But the problem will come when I will try to change it. So bytes are actually not mutable. That is the reason it is giving you the error, right? So there is one more data type, that is byte array, right? These two are brothers actually, byte and byte arrays, right? A slight difference is that byte arrays are mutable, right? So here you can see at y0, I want to change the value to 99. Okay, I'm sorry, I need to execute this first to assign the new values. Yes, now my byte array has been initialized. Now let me change the 0th index to 99. Yes, it is happening fine. Let's print it and see if it has been replaced. Yes, 0th index has been replaced to 99. Initially, it was 10. Okay. So this is the second type of sequences. First was string, second was byte, third was byte arrays. Now we will discuss about list and tuples. Okay. Now please listen very carefully because then a lot of people creates a lot of confusion unnecessarily in their mind about the differences between what is list and what is tuple and how it is different, because somewhat functionalities are similar but not same, of course, right? So let's move on to list. So I have a document here that you will get anywhere from the internet also, that is describing the characteristics of a list, right? So list is a collection which is ordered. List is mutable, that is, list is changeable. Now here is a place where comes the difference between a list and a tuple. टपल भी सीक्वेंस है, लिस्ट भी सीक्वेंस है. लिस्ट म्यूटेबल है, टपल म्यूटेबल नहीं है, right? You cannot change tuple, right? Both the places duplicate members are allowed. That means if you have written one element as 2 inside the list, second element can also be 2, no problem. ऐसा नहीं है कि duplicates allow नहीं है. जब हम सेट्स की बात करेंगे तो उधर वो डुप्लीकेट ले तो लेता है लेकिन उसको रीड नहीं करता, because set is the collection of unique element. This is how set defined. Even in mathematics also we have defined set in this way only. So Python also takes the same thing. Okay, then yes, I use square brackets to represent list, that we will see. Then list are just like arrays, but then arrays अभी तक आपने जो पढ़ा है that contains homogeneous elements. तो Python का भी array होता है, उसमें भी ऐसा homogeneous element वाला restriction होता है, but then Python का जो list होता है that gives you a flexibility. That is, I will have indexing, I will have ordering, I will allow you to change some element, and also I may contain the elements of different data types. So in a single list I can put float value also, int value also, string also, bool also. It will not create any problem, it will accept everything. Okay, so let's quickly see. So this is how we define the list. So here we have a list which is having the value 2, -2. These are integers. Then we have 0.9, which is float. We have Vijay, hello, hi. These all are strings, right? And every type of value we have put inside a square bracket, and we are calling it as a list, which is completely fine to Python. Okay, so yeah, the name can be anything. Here I have given it as list1. You can write your name also. Let's say Soham is attending the session. Soham can write here Soham is equals to, and then define the list. That is completely fine. That is just a variable name. Okay, so yeah, so we can execute this. अच्छा execute हो गया, ये मुझे कैसे समझ में आता है? From here I can see it has been executed. अगर कुछ problem होता तो वो मुझे error देता. Right? Let's quickly see what is the data type of this list. So yes, here you can see it belongs to class list. मतलब ये कि पाइथन में ऐसी एक क्लास बनी हुई है लिस्ट नाम की, ठीक है, और उसने आइडेंटिफाई किया कि ये जो सीक्वेंस दिया है वो लिस्ट है. कैसे आइडेंटिफाई किया? क्योंकि इसमें स्क्वायर ब्रैकेट्स हैं. दैट इज द रीजन इट इज अ लिस्ट. ठीक है. नाउ यू कैन प्रिंट द लिस्ट वंस ट्वाइस, जैसे भी प्रिंट करना है कर सकते हो. ठीक है. वंस प्रिंट करना है सिंपली लिस्ट वन पास कर दिया. अगर ट्वाइस प्रिंट करना है यू कैन मल्टीप्लाई इट बाय 2, so it will be like printing all the elements 2 times, right? Then you can slice the list, you can modify the list, is pretty possible. So what is slicing? That let's say if I have 10 elements in the list and I want to slice the list from element number 2 to element number 6, I can do that. Right? So this is something which is called as range in Python. So how we write range? That is, let's say if I have written here 2:4, that means what? Its lower bound is 2, its upper bound is 4, but 2 is inclusive, 4 is exclusive. What is the meaning of that? That means it will take second index, it will take third index, but it will not take fourth index because fourth index is exclusive, right? So how many elements it will consider? 2 elements. That is element on index number 2 and element on index number 3. I just hope it is making sense, right? So let's execute it and see. मैंने क्या किया? List new नाम का एक वेरिएबल लिया and I am simply slicing it and printing the values. Fair enough. What it is doing? It is taking this as a 0th index, this as a 1th index, but 0.9 as a second index. So it has printed 0.9. Then Vijay is a third index element to which it has printed. Now hello is a fourth indexed element. Right? But then fourth is the exclusive, na? Abhi to discuss kiya that second is inclusive, fourth is exclusive. So it will not consider fourth here. Okay? So this is how slicing works with a list. Even currently on second index we have element 44 instead of 0.9 instead of 0.9 I want to put some other value. I can do that. List में कर सकते हैं, tuple में नहीं कर सकते. Why so? Because then tuple is immutable, list is mutable. Okay, so let's execute it. Yes, here you can see instead of 0.9 now I have 44 as one of the element. Okay, I can play around with it and try other functions also. So there are ample of functions available. For example, append. So what this append function will do? वो क्या करेगा? List में एक element और add कर देगा end में, that is true. But if I want to insert some element at particular position, मुझे क्या करना है कि मुझे fourth position पे एक element insert करना है and I just want कि fourth पे जो element था वो एक एक shift हो जाए आगे. वो fifth पे हो जाना चाहिए, fifth का element sixth पे चला जाना चाहिए, likewise. So I have a function called as insert, wherein I can pass the index number first and then I can pass which element I want to insert. तो मुझे test नाम का एक string insert करना है at fourth position. Let's execute. Yes, I can do that. 2 minus 2, 44. Vijay was there, but then at the fourth index now it has inserted test and then we have hello, then we have hi. ठीक है. Then in Python we have something called as in operator. How it works वो देखेंगे हम. Hello. Yeah. Then how this in operator works that we'll see in detail. But then basically what I'm doing, I'm writing 2 in list 1, right? So what it will do, it will check. In operator क्या करेगा? वो check करके boolean value return करेगा. क्या check करेगा? कि 2 as a element list 1 में present है या नहीं. If it is present, it will reply as true, otherwise it will reply as false. So currently हमारे पास जो list structure है उसमें available है. So what we can do, we can execute. It is here returning me true as answer. right? We can try for nested list. That is pretty possible. We can nest one list inside another list. That is pretty possible, right? So yes, this is how it works. List inside list is nested list. Okay. So I just hope that concepts still here are clear. समझ में आ रहा है यहाँ तक? I just want a quick confirmation in the chat if it is clear so that I can go ahead with tuples. Everyone, please confirm it in the chat if it is clear. Or if you have doubt, some doubt, please post it. Especially, I just want especially the non-computer IT background students to answer that. Are they able to get Python? Please quickly answer. Okay. I can see a reply from Swati. What about others? Okay, Pratiksha. Yeah, everybody quickly acknowledge so that I can go ahead to double concept. Okay. Fine. So now we'll go ahead with tuple. Okay. So like list, we have another sequence of data types which are available with Python called as tuple. Right? Now what tuple is? Again, as I told, list and tuple are brothers actually, real brothers with few differences, right? So what is the difference between a list and tuple? That tuples are immutable. The way of presentation of tuple is different. So list is having square brackets to be recognized as list. Tuple are having round brackets to be recognized as tuple. Tuple also allow you to take different data types and make a collection and print it, right? So tuple also allow you to do so. So as you can see, the very first, अभी अपने कंपाइलर को यहीं पे समझ में आ जाएगा कि ये टपल है. क्यों समझ में आ जाएगा? बिकॉज यहाँ पे हमने राउंड ब्रेसेस यूज किए, राइट? Now there is something called as ID. What ID do? ID is actually nothing but some identification number which is given to every object by Python memory manager, right? So it is not something that we do or we have a control on. We do not have. It is by default done by Python compiler, and we have to accept it that this is our ID number. Right? So this TP1 will be considered as object of tuple class. As I told in Python, everything is class and object. This tuple is also a class. This TP1 is an object of that tuple class. And this ID will be having some random ID number, identity number of that object. Okay? So yes, this is how I can print the identity number. This is some random number जिस पे मेरा खुद का कोई control नहीं है. This has been simply given by the compiler, right? This is the identity number of the tuple, right? Now this is, let's say, some tuple1. This is some tuple2. Let's execute this tuple2. Try to concatenate these two tuples. Yes. Okay. Will this statement give me any error? What do you feel? Will this statement, highlighted statement, will it give me any error, or it will be like working fine? So yeah, it will not give me any error. तो मैम अभी आप बोल रहे थे मॉडिफाई नहीं कर सकते, अभी आप टपल 1 और टपल 2 दोनों को कॉन्कैटिनेट करके वापस से टपल 1 में डाल रहे हो, तो मॉडिफिकेशन हो ही गया, राइट? No, it is not that kind of modification. So what is going on actually in the background? Let's execute this. See, this is not giving any error. Print tuple 1, it will give you concatenated value. But अगर आप इस TP1 का ID नंबर आपने ऊपर देखा और इस TP1 का ID नंबर देखोगे तो दोनों का ID नंबर डिफरेंट है. मतलब मेमोरी में दो TPs बने हैं, दो TP1s बने हैं, दो वेरिएबल्स ऐसे बने हैं जिसका नाम TP1 ही है, right? And those are pointing to the different memory location. That is the reason both are having a different ID number or different object references. That is the reason it is giving you the different ID numbers. So it is not considered to be as that it is mutable. Okay. Yeah. Now I can check for type of TP1. So yes, the type it is returning me as tuple, right? I can do slicing with any tuple, but then I have to save it to some different variable. Yes, I can do slicing, no problem. But then उसको आपको किसी और variable में save करना पड़ेगा. Original data आप modify नहीं कर सकते. Okay, now let's try to change the value. अभी 1th location पे क्या है? It is -2. Now let's try to put 7 there. So it will give you an error. Why it is giving me the error? Because tuple are not mutable. List में वो error नहीं दे रहा था, हमने -2 को 44 से replace किया था, वो आराम से हो गया था. But here in tuple it is creating the issue, right? Because tuples are not mutable. Okay, then if I want to count that how many times 2 has been encountered inside the tuple, I can simply use a count function and pass the element in it. It is telling me the total 2 has encountered twice in the complete tuple. Or if I want to find the index of some particular element, I can do that. So basically tuple is also having the like list, tuple is also indexed, ordered, right? So let's see the description quickly. So जैसे हमने list के लिए देखा वैसे tuple का points देख लेते हैं. It is a collection of items which is ordered. Clear, right? It is ordered because we are having indexes. Then tuples are immutable or unchangeable. That is what is the difference between list and tuple. Brackets used to represent are round braces, to which we are pretty convinced, right? This is the difference between list and tuple, that we use round brackets for tuple. Then only difference between that list can be changed, tuples cannot be changed. That is mutable, immutable wala difference. Right? Tuples comparatively faster होते हैं list से because it is immutable. Lists are mutable. That is the reason tuple के comparison में थोड़ा run time ज़्यादा होता है. Right? So this is how tuple and list can be differentiated. Okay. So these are the different sequence functions that we have with us. The next category is going to be sets, and after that mapping, which is nothing but dictionary. So we will come to these points, but then before that, I just want to show you few things here that is probably helpful for your placement point of view. That is the different platforms where you can go check the problem statement and code it into some specific languages to gain some good ranks. And those ranks will really be or those platform usage should be handy to you for giving the company exams these days. So yeah, there is one very famous site that is HackerRank. Few of you must be aware of, right? So if you'll write here HackerRank Python, you need to actually log into this HackerRank to explore it pretty well. I have not logged in yet, but yes, you can go to some particular domain called as Python, and here you have lot of problems and lot of challenges which is launched by HackerRank. So if you are thinking that you are pro with if and else concept of Python, you can go and solve here the challenges. This is how students do practice using these platforms. And yes, it is very the results are very much appreciated by the companies. So how they do, they give the task here. आपको करना क्या है वो इन्होंने एक्सप्लेन किया है प्रॉब्लम स्टेटमेंट. दे हैव गिवन यू द इनपुट हियर, क्या क्या कंस्ट्रेंट्स है वो दिया है, आउटपुट फॉर्मेट दिया है, एंड देन initial details has been given here, and then they are asking you to code in their compiler. ठीक है, जिसमें उन्होंने एक रॉ रफ कोड दे दिया है, राइट. यू जस्ट नीड टू कंप्लीट दिस कोड इन द मोस्ट ऑप्टिमाइज्ड वे, राइट. सो ये एकदम से नहीं आता, करते करते प्रैक्टिस करते करते आ जाता है. तो दिस इज वन वेरी फेमस प्लेटफॉर्म वेयर स्टूडेंट्स प्रैक्टिस. Even last year when placements were going in the online mode, I have seen many companies which were using HackerRank platform for their coding test, right. Coding round के लिए उन्होंने HackerRank platform use किया था. So I feel that every one of you should be pro with this platform in whatsoever language you are comfortable with, right. If let's say you are a Java programmer, that's fine. You use this platform and solve the logic using Java. It won't make any difference until unless some interviewer or some companies specifically asking the questions about Java or about Python, no matter which language you are using. But then if somebody is asking the questions about Python, of course you should be like aware of the basic syntax and functionalities of Python. Okay. Apart from HackerRank, we have one more platform, that is LeetCode. So yeah. So here also you can go, you can register, and you can solve the problems. You can practice for the placements, right? Likewise, there are other few other platforms also. You will get for these challenges of HackerRank, you will get the even codes on many GitHub profiles. If you check, you will get the answers there, and you will see how nicely people solve the problem. That would be a great learning. So I just want to convey to everybody that after attending the sessions, just quickly revise the concept, and on that concept you can take one problem statement and get it solved through these platforms. It will be like improving your profile also. Okay, so what we'll do now is that whatever I have discussed today, in tomorrow's session I will create a small quiz, very, very small quiz with minimal number of questions. And I just want you people to be aware of at least all the data types. So 2 data types are left from my side, that is sets and dictionaries, that I will discuss positively by the start of next day's session. And then I will quickly give you a quiz, and wherein you can check that how much you have understood. So you have a day time to quickly go through of whatever we have discussed today, and then we can take a small quiz. It is not for it will not count anywhere in your academics. It is just to check that how much you are able to understand through sessions, right? So for tomorrow's session, we'll keep this much for today. For tomorrow's session, the schedule is from 4 to 6, which has been a bit postponed it to 5 to 7, right? So I will request your placement coordinators to properly disseminate this information through WhatsApp groups. But yeah, here also I'm telling that tomorrow's session we'll conduct from 5 to 7. Tomorrow's Python session. Right, and we'll start with this data type, then we'll cover up operators, control statements, then GUI, database and file handling connectivity, database connectivity and file handling, and then we have socket programming. So this is how our flow is going to be. So I just hope the today's session is clear. I'll be waiting here, and I'm open to question answer. So you can post any query in the chat section. Thank you very much. That would be great if you can acknowledge in the chat section if the session was clear or not. So yes, thank you very much for today's session. Yeah, I'm expecting for a quick acknowledgement, if you can give.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for your informative session.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Students, anyone have any questions?
Fine. So
Okay, thank you,
probably
everyone.
you take this time and practice the things. Yeah. Nice, I think we for the day. Thank you very much.